Hi! Apparently I need to address some common questions and concerns from yesterday's video. I'll start with the most obvious, I guess it is, because I mentioned yesterday that my cable snagging and my transmitter being in the way issues. Well, a lot of you suggested that I just put the transmitter on my back, make it look more professional. Well, no, because I'd sit on it. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, why don't you just take it off before you sit down? No, because I would forget to take it off before I sit down, and then I would sit on it. How do I know this? Because I used to wear this thing behind me, and then I sat on the transmitter multiple times, because I always forget that it's behind me, and then I sat on it. I even broke the clip off of this one, and you can't buy replacement parts for these things, so I had to take the clip off the receiver and put it on here. And then I sat on it again, so this one's slightly bent. So that's why I have this on my side full time now, because I don't have to worry about forgetting to remove it before I sit down. So that's why it's here. I'm not putting it on my back. Also, I love all of you, but some of you are ridiculous. One person even suggested taping the microphone cable to either me or my shirt. Don't you think that's a little inconvenient? Clearly the best solution to my cable management issue is one that I saw in a comment this morning, and I'll go do that real quick. This is clearly the perfect solution for my cable management microphone issues. So thank you, anonymous commenter, for leaving this tip. I don't have any worries about the cable snagging or anything. I'm not going to bump the transmitter or anything. I don't have to worry about sitting on the transmitter unless I sit drastically incorrectly. This is the perfect solution. So it's what I'm going to go with. Now, a concern from yesterday's video. After you saw the Fiesta, a lot of you pointed out that my right rear tire is low. And you're right. It is low. I didn't notice it until I watched the video yesterday when I was editing, but it does look a bit low. Also, there were a lot of questions in yesterday's videos about my method of screw hole plugging on the bus panels. And like I said, it was just an experiment. It was an idea I had that I wanted to try out, and that's why I did it. It was just an experiment. And as with anything that has an alternative way of doing something that is presented in a YouTube video, I heard about all of the alternative options in the comments, usually phrased in the form of, why didn't you try this? Or why didn't you try this? Or you made it way too hard for yourself. Why didn't you try this? Okay, well, I did see two common approaches that I thought about that were suggested, and I didn't try them, but I'm going to try them today just to satisfy your curiosity and to satisfy my curiosity. All right, alternative approach number one. A lot of you suggested backing the screw hole or whatever it is I'm trying to fill in with something that welds won't stick to, like copper, brass, etc., something like a penny, and just filling in this hole with weld and then grinding that flush. That's a great idea. I thought of that myself. In fact, I thought of that before the hole punch method. But the reason I didn't try that is because that requires access to the back of the panel to put the thing back there. And this panel, these two panels, are still in place on the bus, and I didn't want to have to remove them for that. That was the reasoning that I didn't try it. However, my metal hole punch plug method also requires access to the back of the panel. Not immediately, but it will. After I weld it from the front, I have to rust-proof it from the back, because it's just going to be bare steel there on the back side wherever I fill the screw holes in. So both methods using a welder require access to the back of the panel. But just for funsies, because I want to see it and you probably want to see it too, let's try backing a screw hole with a bit of copper or whatever I have lying around the shop and filling it with welds and see what happens. I might be able to do that on the panels that are off the bus. Well, this ought to be pretty easy. Just take a little magnet and a penny and adhere it under there. The penny is now blocking the hole. And just go to town with the welder. Let's try this out. There with the penny. May have turned the welder settings up a little too high. What's my reward for being able to pick up a penny with a welding glove? How did I even do that? Okay. Okay, so I filled that hole in entirely with weld long after the penny fell. All right, for this hole, I'm not going to back the hole with the penny. I'm going to back it with my brass hammer. I have to hold it in place manually, which is kind of annoying, but it's just an experiment. The whole backing it with something method isn't really doesn't seem to be working all that well. So I'm going to try this hole. I'm just going to try filling it with weld, no backer, and just see how much different that is than these other two holes that had a backer. All right, that was not the easiest thing in the world. So maybe the backer does provide some value. It just didn't seem like it was doing much. Let's get something better to back these holes with. All right, this screw hole I have backed with this little piece of aluminum that I have clamped in place. So let's see if that provides any benefit. Yeah, well, that seemed to work pretty well. Let's try that again. This is the sort of situation where I can see the backing it with something method really coming in handy, because there's just a gob of screw holes here to fill in. So got that piece of aluminum bar clamped to the other side. Let's just try to fill it in. That was significantly more heat than I really wanted to pump into that little hole there, but I did get it filled up. All right, just for fun, let's try one more screw hole. Oh, that one chose to raise up instead of sink down. Fascinating. So backing the screw holes with something the weld can't stick to, and then filling in the hole, and then removing that backing thingy works great. I mean, I expected it to work great. Like I said, I considered that from the beginning, but I wanted to try the hole punch method because theoretically it wouldn't require access to the back of the panel, blah, blah, blah. I've already explained this. Let's go on to the next alternative solution, which is Bondo. But I dismissed Bondo from the beginning because, well, let's go over to the whiteboard. Imagine this is a cross-section of one of the screw holes in the sheet metal. My concern when I thought about Bondo from the beginning was that if I put a layer of Bondo to fill in this screw hole, let's say it's a big hump like that, just gooping on the Bondo, then when I go to sand it flush, all I'll be left with is just a tiny little Bondo plug in the screw hole. Now my concern was that this would be easy to pop out. That's not likely, and whether or not that concern is valid, I thought about the Bondo situation for just a little bit of time this morning and realized all I have to do to mitigate the fear of this leaving behind a Bondo plug that will be easy to pop out is to just grind away at the surface of the screw hole a little bit so that it's not flat anymore. There's a little of a concave section around the screw hole, so that way when I put this big old heap of Bondo over it and then sand it flush, I'm not left with a Bondo plug. That just smeared. I'm not left with a Bondo plug anymore. I'm left with this Bondo cap. There's no way that's going to push through. So I'm going to try Bondo now. That won't introduce any heat to it. I can do that purely from the surface. It seems like that might be my optimal approach. I'm going to try Bondoing this hole here. So first step, let's grind it down a little bit. Conveniently, I happen to have some Bondo and even a Bondo applicator on hand, so I can just use that. That looks gross. I don't know about you, but I think that's real gross. This may not be good in probably good. All right, I got this mixed up, but I have extreme doubts that this hardener is any good anymore. It feels extremely liquidy. I don't remember it being that liquidy. So let's get a little dollop out here. Oh, that's just liquidy. I don't expect this to work. Yeah, I don't remember that being so liquidy. Well, let's just knead this anyway. Whatever. Let's go ahead and apply it here. Too much, too much, too much. Apply it over the screw holes that I have over on the other side too. Oh, it's going straight through. Falling through the screw holes. That may be a problem. Well, I just wasted a couple hours. I went to town again, and I got more Bondo. More pertinently, though, I got an extra bottle of cream hardener for the Bondo to replace my perished tube of the stuff, the Bondo I already have. So I can still use that can of Bondo I have. I just had to get some more hardener for it. Also, I got some more spreader pads. This is not regular Bondo, this is Bondo glass. It has short strands of fiberglass in it so it can bridge tiny gaps, like the screw holes that I have that need plugging. I hope that this Bondo method will work for filling the screw holes because this is the only method I can use to fill the screw holes on that body panel that's still on the bus without taking it off, without requiring access to the back side of it. I try to convince myself that I could get away with using the hole punch method and not have access to the back of it, but the back of it's going to need rust protection anyway. I'll have to have access to the back of that panel if I do any form of welding on it. So I hope I can fill in screw holes using Bondo glass and not have to have access to the back of it. So let's mix up a little dollop of this Bondo glass and try out filling in some screw holes with it, or probably just one or two. See how well it works for that. Hopefully it won't fall straight through the screw hole like my previous Bondo attempt did, although that was likely because the hardener was perished and too liquidy. That Bondo I put on there did harden, but it didn't harden very quickly, and it was a lot more liquidy than it should have been. All right, I'm going to try Bondo glass on as many of these little holes here as I can. But first I got to clean them up. A lot of dust on them. All right, let's scrape this off my stick. There, that's how the cream hardener's supposed to flow out. Not in a soupy mess, but a little, I don't know, a thickish bead. I can't pick up my... Come on, there we go. Oh my God, this is a very putrid color. All right, I think it's about time to start spreading this. Mixed up a little more than I needed here. And by a little, I mean I mixed up a lot more than I needed here. That spanned the hole perfectly. This is looking good. That one keeps pulling out of the hole. That's extremely annoying. Just going to have to gob it on thicker, I guess. Wait a little bit more for this stuff to harden. And I'll go get the sandpaper. Well, this is the hole I had trouble with, so naturally it didn't come out very well, but this one turned out fantastically. I can see where it is, but it turned out pretty well. I haven't tried these two. I need to break out the orbital sander for this tomorrow, but this is looking pretty good. Yeah, I think this is going to work. Okay, let's recap. This video was a jumbled mess because like every day with these daily videos, I came out here without a plan. But that's okay because part of this series is about letting go of perfectionism. Now, I came out here with the plan this morning to just batch out a bunch of screw hole fills using my metal hole punch method, but then I read some comments, and there were a lot of comments suggesting alternative methods of filling in the screw holes. And the two main methods that were suggested were, well, you saw it, backing the hole with something the weld won't stick to, filling it with weld, or using some sort of Bondo. So I tried both of those things, and I think from this point forward, I'm going to use Bondo. Bondo glass to fill in the screw holes. But I'm going to do that on the panels that are in situ on the bus, the panels that I have not removed, because the Bondo method is the only method that does not require me to have access to the back of the panel. I try to convince myself that if I use the metal hole punch method, then I didn't need access to the back of the panel, but the reality is I do. And I could very easily set fire to the foam insulation and other crap that's behind that panel if I use a welder on it. So I'm going to use Bondo glass, I keep wanting to call it Harrow, Bondo glass on the panels that are in situ on the bus. As for the panels that are off of the bus, the ones that are on the floor behind the camera, I think I'm going to continue to use my metal hole punch method rather than just filling the hole with weld with some sort of backer behind it. And the reason I want to do this is because this metal hole punch method, while slower than the fill it with weld method, it requires more delicacy. It requires me to be more delicate with the MIG welder, and part of the reason I wanted to do this method is so I could get practice using the MIG welder in a very delicate way, because there are going to be future spots on the bus where I have holes that I need to fill up with little pieces of sheet metal, and that will require me to be very delicate with the MIG welder, and this provides me a chance to practice being very delicate and working with very thin sheet metal using the MIG welder right now. So I'm going to do that, and yeah, it'll take a little bit more time than the just gob it up with weld method, but I think it'll be worth it for the practice sake of it. Yeah. Do I have anything else to say? Oh yeah, I'm not looking forward to sanding all of this Bondo. Not looking forward to it at all. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to do a bunch of screw hole filling tomorrow. I thought that was going to be today, but apparently it's going to be tomorrow. Just tons of screw hole filling using a couple different methods. So, see you then.